Hello out there, you're watching everything you need to know about Mage board game. This is part 6. I'm going to go ahead and pick up right where we left off with the basic action cards because I want to get that completely explained. I talked about how you use combat cards. You use cards first for blocking, and then if the attack has been blocked, use them in your attack phase. I also mentioned that you have cards that provide ranged and siege attack phase, and you can use those cards at the beginning of combat to just knock out your opponent before you even have to block their attack. Also, the thing to remember about combat is it is all or nothing. Either you can do your ranged and siege attack in the first phase, or you don't use any of it. You save it because you can use those in the attack phase as just any kind of attack. I said that you can play any card sideways to give you attack 1, block 1, move 1, or influence 1. So for example, in the attack phase, if I charge this with white mana, I get ranged attack 3, which gives me 3 points of attack, and playing this card sideways gives me another point of attack for a total of attack 4. However, if I want to play this as ranged attack 3 at the beginning and catch my enemy off guard and I need 4 points of ranged attack, I can't play this card sideways because this just gives me attack, not range attack, not siege attack, just attack. Also, if I was using fire attack because I was fighting an enemy with physical resistance and I needed to use these 3 points of fire attack by charging this with red mana, by playing this card sideways, this now becomes attack 4, not fire attack 4. So this is just attack 1 or block 1 when it's played sideways. We talked about how to stack the effects so you can play multiple cards to give you more block or more attack. We talked about how to charge the card with mana to get more. I indicated that Arythia really likes having these red cards. She wants to collect red crystals, that's her main color. She also likes white. She prefers red, but she'll also take white. Tovok prefers blue. I mentioned before that he has a card that replaces Determination, but he also prefers red cards in red crystals if he can't get blue. So Arythia likes red if she can, or white. Tovok likes blue if he can, or he'll settle for red. That's just, again, an important detail about the individual characters and what colors they like. So that's everything you need to know about movement. I talked about movement costs and what terrains these cards are good for. Again, you can play another card sideways to give you move 1. Real quickly, I also want to point out that if you are at the edge of a tile and you want to explore the map further by laying down a new tile, first of all, the tile has to be oriented a certain way. If you're exploring, you have to declare which direction you're going in if there's more than one opportunity, and then you spend 2 points of movement and you can explore the tile. Something to remember for the scenario I'm going to be teaching, which is called the first reconnaissance. That is a training scenario. That's what everybody should play the first time. When you explore, as a reward for exploring, you also get 1 point of fame. Now that only happens in this scenario. It's not going to happen in any other game of Mage Knight board game. But you get 1 point of fame as a bonus for exploring. So what you would do is you would spend whatever movement you were going to spend. You would decide to explore. You can spend 2 more movement if you want to. You can keep adding movement effects if you want to. But once your movement phase is done, you can't do any more movement. So in other words, if you were in combat and you were at a space at the edge of a tile, you couldn't finish your combat and then decide to explore, because that's considered movement. So that wraps up combat and movement, at least for now. I want to go on to the next cards in your basic deck. The next card you're going to have is similar to a special card. It's a healing card. You see this hand up here for healing. This means he's putting his hand on his chest or healing him. It could also mean that it's like a stop sign and he's going, "Whoa, buddy, you're hurt. You need to get healed." Whatever. Playing this card gives you 1 point of healing. And we'll explain what wounds are and how you get rid of them. But you would have 1 healing point just for playing this card, Tranquility. If you have this card in your hand and you don't need to get healed, that's okay. You can use this for its alternative effect, which is to draw a card. So you play this card if you're not wounded, and you can draw a card to replace it. No loss. If you are wounded, you can play this card to get 1 point of healing. You could also heal a wounded unit that way. If you have green mana, you can play this for its strongest effect, which is 2 points of healing, or you can draw 2 cards, your option. A special effect can be played at any time during the turn. Whereas these movement cards can only be played during the movement phase of your turn, These combat cards and later the influence cards can only be played in the action phase of your turn. Special cards can be played anytime during your turn. The only thing to remember is you can only heal before or after combat. You can't be in combat, take a wound, heal it, and then keep fighting. You have to conclude the combat and then heal, or you have to heal before combat begins, your choice. You can draw a card at any time during the turn, but I can't imagine you'd want to draw a card during combat. Okay, now we're going to get on to influence, and there's a lot of important stuff to cover here. First of all, take a look at this artwork. We see white, which is a color of influence. It's the energy of the wind, as in moves with the wind, is easily blown like the wind. The wind basically, whatever the way the wind blows, that's how we're influenced. And that's why we have this handshake here, where somebody's using influence, and it's as strong as the wind. This is a red card, fire, like holding somebody's feet to the fire, like forcing them. You see here, this guy is going to agree to what he's being offered, but he's not going to be happy about it. Influence can be used like currency. It's like money. You can use this to buy points of healing if you're in a monastery or a village. You can use this to learn certain actions or spells, depending on where you are. You can even occasionally use this to buy artifacts. A lot of things you can do with influence. But the main thing you're going to be doing with influence is recruiting units to your army. As I said before, there are two factors when you're recruiting. You want both influence and reputation. If your reputation is lowered, you're going to require more influence. If your reputation is high, you're not going to need as much influence to get done what you need to get done. So it's a good idea to keep reputation high, particularly if you are Norowas. Norowas likes using the white influence. These cards are going to give you 2 points of influence. If you use their higher effect with white mana, you get 4 points of influence. If you use red mana, you can get 5 points of influence for using Threaten. However, at the end of your turn, you're going to lose 1 reputation. Turns out they don't like it when you come into their village or their mage tower and start putting knives to people's throats. They frown on that. I said before that Norowas likes to have white crystals, and he loves to influence, and he's really good at recruiting. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even get a copy of this card in his deck. He does not get Promise. What he gets instead is called Noble Manners. Noble Manners is an influence card. It gives 2 points of influence, or at its higher effect, it gives 4 points of influence. What makes this card so special, and there's Norowas right there, what makes this card so special is that in addition to getting 2 influence, if you use it for interaction, you get 1 point of fame. If you use the 4 points of influence at its higher effect, you also get 1 point of fame and 1 point of reputation at the end of your turn. Needless to say, at a certain point of the game, you're going to have such a high reputation, you're hardly going to need any influence at all, and Norowas should have no problem having an army of 5 units. Everybody else, by the way, is going to get a copy of Promise in their deck. Okay, Threaten, as I said before, gives you 2 points of influence, and its higher effect gives you 5 points of influence, but your reputation goes down by 1. Arithyia is going to use this card a lot. She's going to use it to buy spells, because she's the one that's going to spend the most time in the Mage Tower buying spells. Heck, she's the one that's going to assault the Mage Tower and get the spells. She doesn't care about reputation. She wants this influence, so she's going to use red mana to boost this up. Those are your influence cards. We have 3 special cards. Notice they have this plus sign, because you get these cards in addition to everything else. No, I don't know what that really means, but you get this sign here. You can play these cards at any time during your turn. You can play it at the beginning, you can play it during combat, you can play it while you're doing actions, while you're moving. Doesn't matter. You can play these anytime. The first card is a blue card. Blue likes crystals. I said before, by the way, that blue is the energy of ice. It's actually the energy of water. Very close. Crystallize. It says, when you play this, also pay 1 mana of a basic color. Gain a crystal of that color to your inventory. So if you're allowed to use a mana token, like this card lets you do, you can take that mana token and use it to pay for using this card. So you would take, say, a red mana token. You would then pay that mana, and you would get a red crystal to your inventory. This is a really, really good card to have, and it's useful to add a mana once per round. It's really, really good to have this. If you have blue mana, and by the way, Tovok has a lot of blue mana. If you have blue mana, you can play this to gain a crystal of any color to your inventory. Really, really useful card, and it makes sure that you have plenty of mana crystals during the game. Tovok likes this card. Goldix also likes this card. Goldix is a big fan of this card. Mana Draw is a white card, which means that Norawas is going to use this, and Arithia is going to use this as well. She likes this card a lot. Mana Draw. This card lets you use an additional mana die from the source this turn. So I said before that 1 mana die per player per turn. Arithia gets to use this card, or anybody does if they play this. They get to use an additional mana die from the source this turn. If you charge this with white mana, you get to do something really cool. You get to take a mana die from the source and set it to any color except gold. Gain 2 mana tokens of that color. And then you don't re-roll this die when you put it back on the source because you've already changed its color by picking a color. So let's say you needed a blue mana token, or you have cards that require 2 blue mana. What you would do is you would take 1 die from the source, you'd charge this with white mana, take a die from the source, set it to blue, take 2 blue mana tokens, which you could use to power those cards. And then at the end of your turn, you would put the mana die back in the source, it would stay blue, and you would return the 2 mana tokens to the mana bank. So this is a really cool card to have. Our final special card is called Concentration. This is a card that Arithia is going to have, Tovok's going to have, and Norawas is going to have. Norawas really likes this, by the way. He's a big green guy. He likes white, but he also likes green. This card allows you to gain a blue, white, or red mana token. So what you do is you play Concentration. You would take a mana token of any color except green. That's blue, white, or red. You would use it to charge any cards or any effects that you have that turn. And then at the end of your turn, whether or not you use the mana, you have to return it. What's really cool is if you charge this with green mana. Because what you can do here is, when you play this, play another action card with it. Get the stronger effect of that card for free. If the effect gives you move, influence, block, or any type of attack, get that armor, get that attack, or that amount, +2. So this is really, really cool. Let's say that you're Arithia, and you have Battle Versatility in your hand, okay? And you're facing an enemy that has an armor of 4. How are you going to fight that enemy this combat? What you do is you take green mana, you would charge Concentration. So you put green mana here, and then you would play Battle Versatility. You would get your choice of ranged attack or siege attack. And let's say you use range attack. You would get 5 points of range attack. Because you get 5 range attack, 3 plus 2 would give you 5 range attack if you play it side by side with Concentration, and you charge this card with green mana. You get the stronger effect of this card, +2. Or you get siege attack of 4. Instead of 2, you get 2 plus 2, which is 4. Your choice. So that's what you get there. The only difference is that Goldix, instead of Concentration, he gets this card, Will Focus, which allows you to get a blue, white, or red mana token, or gain a green crystal to your inventory. Its higher effect is the same, except instead of +2, it gives you +3 of attack, block, influence, or movement. Okay, so you could charge the green mana, and then play it with Promise. That would give you influence 7. You could get a unit that requires 7 influence. And then finally we have Improvisation. Improvisation, everybody has this. This is a red card. It's a combat card. It's a special card. It's a movement. It's everything. If you discard a card, it gives you 3 points of move, influence, attack, or block. If you play its stronger effect, you can discard a card to get 5 points of move, influence, attack, or block. So in a nutshell, that's what all 16 of these cards in your basic deck are. You have 3 combat cards, 2 copies of Rage and Determination. You have 2 cards that are both movement and combat, Swiftness. You have 2 green cards that are movement, March. We have those 2 right there. You have 2 blue cards of movement that are Stamina. You have a healing card, Tranquility. You have 2 influence cards, Promise and Threaten. And then you have your 3 special cards, Crystallize, Mana Draw, and Concentration, which is right here. And finally you have Improvisation. The cards that are unique to each Mage Knight are Battle Versatility, which Arithia has, that replaces 1 copy of Rage for her. Cold Toughness for Tovok that replaces Determination for him. Noble Manners, which is unique for Norwas and it replaces Promise for him. And finally, Will Focus, which is Goldix's card and it replaces Concentration. Anyway, that should explain how these cards are used and how to play them. Again, playing one of these sideways, any of these cards sideways will give you Move 1, Attack 1, Block 1, or Influence 1. And I hope that clears up why you need certain colors of crystals if you are certain Mage Knights, and which cards you're going to rely on more heavily. Now we're going to move on to the skills, so please come back for part 7, where we talk about how the skills are used for the Mage Knights. Until next time, thank you for watching everything you need to know about Mage Knight board game, GLHF. Good luck, have fun.